Hi boys, we are looking at page 2 of Revenge today. So Piso is in court and he's had these potential charges pressed against him, and we are going to see what happens with his defence and also with his prosecution. So I can't write the translation down, unfortunately, because there just isn't enough room for my big scrawly writing. So I'm just going to say it out loud. So you do need to make sure that you're writing this down as I say it, and that you're not just writing the translation down, but you're recognising which Latin words have given you which English words. Okay, let's get started. So deinde biduum, deinde means then, and biduum means 2 days. So our first piece of translation is going to be then, a period of 2 days. The next word we translate is the verb statuita, was allocated. It's a present tense passive, but we'll talk about the fact that it's translated into the past when we come to the analysis. So then, a period of 2 days was allocated. What was it allocated for? Criminibus obiciendis, not an easy word to say. It was allocated for presenting the charges. So criminibus are the charges. To us, that just looks like the word crimes, which is essentially the same thing, because these are the crimes that he's been accused of. So then a period of 2 days was allocated for presenting the charges. Que, we're going to translate next. So and then we're going to leave the ut for now. We'll come back to that. So post intervallum sexdierum means after an interval of 6 days. So, and after an interval of 6 days. And then we're going to translate per triduum, a period of 3 days. Then we go back to the ut. Now, usually we translate ut as 2. We'll have talked about this when we've revised the subjunctive. But that would mean, reus means the defendant, and defenderator is to defend himself. But we're not going to say to the defendant to defend himself. So we're going to translate ut as for instead. So that whole little phrase then is and after an interval of 6 days, comma, a period of 3 days for the accused to defend himself. So reus there, will translate as accused, the accused, to defend himself. So that whole sentence, then a period of 2 days was allocated for presenting the charges, and after an interval of 6 days, comma, a period of 3 days for the accused to defend himself. So just thinking about that, you've got 2 days for the charges against Piso, but then he's actually been given 3 days to explain his defence. So he's actually got an extra day there on the people accusing him. So perhaps a little bit of bias towards Piso, and that's perhaps what Tacitus is trying to tell us here. Isn't it unfair that Piso gets an extra day? Okay, tres amici Germanici, 3 friends of Germanicus, very straightforward. Objecerunt literally means like hurled onto him. So charged, Pisonem Piso, consimili studio, with similar zeal. So studio is the word that means zeal. It means like energy, passion. They really think that Piso has done all this horrible stuff. So 3 friends of Germanicus charged Piso with similar zeal. Z-E-A-L, comma. Now, this that follows on is what they then say. So we're going to put into English, even though it's not there in Latin, saying that. Okay. So that isn't there in the Latin because grammatically you just don't need it. Remember, Latin is always neater than English, but we've got to put that in because the English language needs a bit more explanation. So, saying that, odio Germanici, in his hatred of Germanicus, et studio, that word again, and zeal, rerum novarum, for revolution, literally for new things, rerum novarum, but here it means revolution. Okay, comma. corrupisse. So look, this is what they're saying. So we need an infinitive. It's a perfect infinitive. This has all happened in the past. So we translate it as pluperfect. So he had corrupted. And then we've heard about this earlier on in the story. He had corrupted the milites, the soldiers, and then per licentiam means through hooliganism. But if we wrote that in English, it sounds like Piso is the one committing the hooliganism. But actually, it's that he allowed that for the soldiers. So we're going to put in more English words that aren't there in the Latin. Because as I said, English just needs a bit more waffle. So he had corrupted the soldiers by allowing, we're going to put in English, licentiam, hooliganism, et sociorum injurias, and maltreatment of the allies. So injurias means maltreatment, it's like injustices, and then sociorum are the allies. And then that should get you up to the semicolon. I'll read that bit out again from Tres Amici. So 3 friends of Germanicus charged Piso with similar zeal, saying that in his hatred of Germanicus and zeal for revolution, he had corrupted the soldiers by allowing hooliganism and maltreatment of the allies. Okay, and then after the semicolon, they hit on the most serious crime. Postremo, finally. Occidisse, another infinitive there. He had killed Germanicum ipsum, Germanicus himself, with, we've got ablatives here, devotionibus et veneno, with curses and poison. So veneno there is the word that means poison, like venom in English. So finally, he had killed Germanicus himself with curses and poison. So we know about the curses. Those were all the weird things that were stuck in his walls that Piso is being accused of planting there. And then the poison is the suspected murder weapon, basically. Okay, so the next sentence begins with tum, so then, and then we've got pisonem and plancinam, and they're both accusatives, and they're accusatives because this is carrying on with all these charges, so it's still an indirect statement. So we are going to translate Piso and Plancina as if they're the nominatives, because this is all the indirect statement of what these people are saying about what Piso has done. You will not get an indirect statement as complicated as this in your language paper, but it's just nice to spot it here. We've got 2 ets, tum et pisonem et plancinam. So we're going to translate it as both and, not just and. So then, both Piso and Plancina, postquam, after, and then fecissent sacra literally means after they had done sacred things. So in nice English, we're going to say after they had performed sacred rites. Et immolationes nefandas, and unspeakable sacrifices. Okay, so nefandas means like the worst possible version of something that you can possibly do. It's like sinful. And then the immolationes is sacrifices, comma. And then another infinitive, perfect infinitive, because it's still part of this indirect statement. So after they had performed sacred rites and unspeakable sacrifices, they petivisse had attacked rem publicam, the state or the republic, armis, with arms. Now the reason that we probably translate rem publicam as state is that at this point, as we know, the emperors are in charge. So it's not actually really a republic politically anymore. So that whole last sentence then from tum is then both Piso and Plancina, after they had performed sacred rites and unspeakable sacrifices, they had attacked the state with arms. Now, the reason that these sacrifices are unspeakable is because it's an offence against the gods to perform such sacrifices. So what kind of sacrifice might Tacitus be referring to here? Well, it may well be that he means the sacrifice of Germanicus's life. So they've murdered Germanicus because obviously they think that's what they should be doing, or at least Piso's murdered Germanicus, but this is an unspeakable thing to do. The gods would be horrified at this. And then obviously the final accusation that they attack the state with arms is probably the worst, because it shows that they're basically committing treason. So I'm going to whiz through the whole English of this page so that you can check that you've got it all down and that you understand where it's coming from. So then a period of 2 days was allocated for presenting the charges, and after an interval of 6 days, a period of 3 days for the accused to defend himself. 3 friends of Germanicus charged Piso with similar zeal, saying that in his hatred of Germanicus and zeal for revolution, he had corrupted the soldiers by allowing hooliganism and maltreatment of the allies. Finally, he had killed Germanicus himself with curses and poison. Then both Piso and Plancina, after they had performed sacred rites and unspeakable sacrifices, had attacked the state with arms.